Hello and welcome to Balanced Existence, a place for like-minded and open-minded individuals seeking to better themselves spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and physically. So today I want to talk about a few key words that have popped up for me, which is comparison, perfection, organization, and this kind of Seven of Cups energy of being overstimulated by social media influence and the really infinite influence that is, at a couple clicks away, so on our phones. And so, okay, the first thing is perfectionism and comparison. So what I'm picking up for this collective that is working on some kind of creative project is that your angels and guides are urging you to release perfectionism and comparison. And this may feel easier said than done for you if this is something that you maybe struggle with a lot, but your angels and guides are really wanting to comfort you and assure you that where you're going in this higher timeline, you don't have to bring that with you. I'm seeing the image of somebody packing a suitcase and they're bringing their perfectionism and comparison with them. And your angels and guides are stepping in and saying, no, you can leave that. Like, your suitcase will be lighter, or, there will be room in your suitcase for other things. You don't have to bring that. Like, see this as a releasing of a burden, not as leaving something behind or forgetting something, right? Like, you really don't need to bring this with you. And so I don't want to speak too much on these topics because I really do believe in the law of attraction and focusing more on what we do want to attract. But basically, comparison is just putting us in a box, and perfectionism is just making us on repeat think about a spiral. Spiral implies negative, but what I really mean is like a vortex, right? A vortex of whirling, abundant energy because it really at any given moment, you're spiraling in one direction or another, right? You're either restricting your energy or you're expanding it. At least in this duality, in this world of duality, we can kind of, at a high level, boil it down to those two options, right? So if you are comparing yourself to others, you're just putting your entire vortex in a box somewhere. And you're saying, okay, yeah, I can vortex upward, I can expand, but you're only going to be able to expand to the limits of that box that you've put yourself in. So eventually your expansion is going to cap because you've just compared yourself to others and you've kind of limited yourself to, what they're doing and how you should be more like them or how you should follow a certain trend, things like that, right? And so that's why comparison opens the box and allows your vortex to really just be freely moving with momentum in the ether, right? Now with perfectionism, instead of spiraling upward or, that vortex moving upward into higher frequencies and expansion, you basically get stuck on a loop. So if you can imagine like a tornado, but let's imagine like an upside down tornado where it's going, up and up and up. What happens is you stop moving up and you just start looping in one circle on a flat, like horizontal 2D plane. You're not moving up. In fact, you may even move down if you start to really become to be self-critical of your, as a result of your perfectionism. And so with the perfectionism, what it does when you release that perfectionism, you are able to boost yourself expanding upwards again. So I hope that like visually represents what I'm talking about here, but I wanted to paint that picture because I want you to see your existence, and especially for the collective that is working on creative projects and who is really passionate. It doesn't have to be a career project. It could just be some hobby that you really enjoy doing. And, like I talked about in my past videos of prioritizing these little rituals and little things that we can do that help us build that habit of tapping into abundance and joy. Like if you are on that plane and that is something that, resonates with you, then your angels and guides really want you to understand this concept of your energy being such a precious and valuable energy, because this is the energy of creation. This is the source energy. And so for you to be able to embody that and flow with that and really exercise that energy is such a beautiful and powerful gift. And so your angels and guides want you to see it as such, and not see it as like, oh, I'm starting off on this and I'm not very good at it, or I feel a little rusty, or I feel a little disorganized, which brings us to the topic of organization. But, your angels and guides don't want you to put yourself in this self-critical or this box of comparison. They want you to free your vortex and allow it to, I'm almost seeing like the Tasmanian devil from those cartoons where you just runs like crazy. And obviously the Tasmanian devil is kind of a reckless character, but in terms of the movement of just feeling like you can vortex and spiral and just let it go free. Like I'm seeing like a balloon when you let a balloon out of air and it just like flies across the room, like that free. And again, I'm not trying to convey any energy of like chaos or recklessness, but I'm trying to convey this energy of freedom, of like your vortex, right? Like, because when your vortex is expanding to higher frequencies, you're doing so rooted in love and kindness and compassion, and you're not doing it in a negatively reckless way, but you are doing it in a free, unrestricted way. And that is that beautiful creator energy that, this is like the Big Bang, right? Like that, all of that energy that you were able to manifest into your creations, your creative projects, right? Like your masterpieces, your poems, your book, your songs, whatever, your videos, whatever it may be. So that's kind of the message that's coming through really strongly, is release the perfectionism, release the comparison, and I was going to say find the beauty, but it's really just about recognizing the beauty of the organizational process. So you may be feeling, especially after the eclipse season, that you're trying to get organized, and this is what your angels and guides, I'm seeing like they're nodding their heads at you and they're proud of you, because you're in this moment of releasing the perfectionism, releasing the comparison, getting organized, and really fine-tuning that creator energy so that you can start to flow in that creative state. And they're correcting me and not saying start to flow, but to really master that creative flow, something that you've been practicing. And this is the beauty of the journey, is getting to a place where you don't look back and think, oh, I was really bad at that in the past. I mean, of course, as an artist, it may be a normal part. Some may argue it's a normal part of the creative process to look back and cringe at your old work or think, oh, my skills weren't as good. But, cringe implies a sense of negativity and judgment. And that's really not what we don't want to normalize that, right? I mean, it's kind of a joke of a word a lot of the time. But what we're really getting at here is releasing this kind of shame about your past and getting to this point. Like, you are starting to get to this point where you can truly, in this moment, be immensely grateful for where you are right now, while simultaneously being able to look back and fully appreciate the journey that led you to this point. Like, full embodied gratitude of, wow, like, I love my life. I love all of the challenges that got me to this place. And I love how it happened, when it happened. I don't wish it happened earlier. I don't wish it happened differently. I look back at my past and I feel just my journey is so unique and special and beautiful. Like, that is your angels and your highest self speaking through you. If you can really tap into that and feel that, and you may even want to recite that as an affirmation if you can really feel it. It's not just about repeating the words. It's about really feeling what that feels like to say, wow, I can really recognize how beautiful my path has been. And if you want to write that affirmation in the comments to lock it in, like, that would be amazing for you, because it really anchors your energy into that feeling of love and gratitude for your life. And also simultaneously looking forward, you can still recognize that you may have big dreams and you may have a long way to go and you may have a lot of areas that you want to improve in. But similarly to when you look back at life, you look forward at life and you think, wow, I have a beautiful journey ahead of me. And I'm so excited to learn all that there is to learn. This is that energy that your angels, every time your angels look at you, they feel this way. And same for your higher self. Your higher self is tapping into that, like in any given moment, your higher self feels that way about your life, right? And so we want to channel that. We want to tap into that. We want to have access to that at any moment that we want or need it. And we want to make that a habit of how we perceive life, of just being able to have immense gratitude for our journey. So this organization phase that we're talking about is just it's so beautiful, because it may not seem like this romanticized part of your journey, but that's just the point. And this is why, when you can conjure that feeling of romanticizing something, that is pure magic and alchemy, because you are taking what's kind of normalized to be just a basic day-to-day, or not necessarily even day-to-day, but like a monotonous part of your journey or self-growth or self-development path. You are taking a part of that and you're actually turning it into something that's just so valuable and powerful. You're like charging it with energy. I'm seeing like a crystal being charged, like in the full moon, or just being charged by like a column or a beam of light. Like you are doing that with every individual moment of your life. And that is true alchemy. Because instead of saying, yeah, okay, I made breakfast today, you think, wow, I took the time to cook this and nourish my body. That is beautiful. And you infuse that experience and that moment with light and love and gratitude. Same for this organization stage that you may be in right now. You breathe out the perfectionism and the comparison, and you breathe in this light and this clarity on the direction you're going. And that is the process of organization, of figuring out where you want to go, what your project is going to look like. All of these ideas, we've talked about writing down ideas. You are really nailing down like where they are meant to go. And that is you getting organized. That is you tapping into beautiful, grateful energy of your journey. And that is you exercising and mastering the art of creative flow. And that is really the essence of life, right? We come from creation and we create at its basic characterization. That is really the essence of life, is to evolve and create. And so I hope that this resonates with you. The last thing I want to touch on is this 7 of Cups energy that's coming to mind, which is about, is kind of this like daydreaming energy. And this goes hand in hand with getting organized. And we talked about getting clarity and, practicing, exercising, and mastering that art of creative flow. And what I want to touch on is the duality of technology, right? And obviously the world has changed drastically with technology, right? Like things that we may not have been like knowledge and stories and information that we didn't have access to, we now can search up in seconds. And so that is an abundance of knowledge and information that can be a very positive thing and very expansive for the creations on this planet. At the same time, on the individual level of, like the artists, it's the artists themselves and their experience, it can be very overwhelming, right? Like to see many people post their content and, with the abundance of content creation out there, the abundance of ideas, even this channel that you're listening to, like I am just one of many people talking about similar topics, right? You are here because you resonate with the way that I'm delivering my message, right? And you likely have other people on YouTube that you also follow and you resonate with their messages, right? But ultimately, you are being directed to an inward path forward. And external influences or external content, such as this channel that you're listening to, can guide you or show you things or kind of make clear certain concepts. But ultimately, none of these external influences are meant to push you or tell you which path to walk down, right? Imagine you are at like a fork in the road, but it's not like a 3-pronged or 4-pronged fork. It's like 100 forks in the road, right? Or like 100 doors in front of you, if you want to see it as like a door. And let's say for the sake of this example that you can only walk through one door, or you can only take one path. And of course, in the spirit of abundance and the unlimited opportunities, just because you're taking one path or walking through one door doesn't mean you can't kind of jump back and forth to other doors and paths later. But, for the sake of focusing our energy onto like one purpose in life, or really getting that clarity that we're talking about, when we get organized and we really get clarity on the direction of our life or the direction of a creative project or hobby, right? Like that act, I'm going to use the analogy of being like, I'm going to use the analogy of that act being a metaphor for choosing one path or one door, right? Being on social media or consuming content, listening to podcasts, listening to YouTube channels is an analogy for standing at that fork in the road, or standing in front of, all of those 100 doors and being shown, like you can even imagine like a screen, like that's literally how we're consuming most of our content, right? But, it could be books too. You may read a lot of books and those kind of, show you a way to be or show you opportunities, and ultimately you decide how you want to integrate it into your life, right? But for the purpose of this metaphor, let's envision a screen on each door, or a screen that's like floating in the air on top of, or in front of each path that's laid out in front of you in this fork in the road, right? You can look at the screen and you can, it's almost like an advertisement, right? Where the screen says, you should do this with your project, or you should embody this way of living, or, truly, this is what social media is like. When we scroll through reels, easily you can scroll through 100 reels and not even realize that you've just scrolled through 100 reels, right? Or TikToks or whatever it may be. The screens that are showing you the paths are not meant to, and of course this is just an analogy. I mean, just because you watch one TikTok doesn't mean you've picked one path of life, right? Like I'm making the analogy here of just the many options that are laid out in front of us. Like when you look at that screen is not meant to go with you, right? The screen is not meant to tell you to go down their path and stay with you on that path and keep you on that path, right? The screen is simply, it's like an advertisement on TV. The screen is merely meant to show you a possibility, show you an opportunity, show you a way of living. The screen is not meant to manipulate you or pressure you into going down or staying on that path, right? And this is why I'm making this analogy, is because especially with this 7 of Cups energy, where we often feel overstimulated by all of the ways of being, all of the lifestyles, all of the ways we can exist in this world. And especially in this world of duality, all of the sharp contrasts in ways of being and existing in this world. See the screen as a friendly advertisement. Almost, you could even see it as like contestants, and you've got the clipboard, you've got the power to decide which one you're going to take. You're not trying to fit into the mold because the screen made its case that was the best path, right? You're looking at these 100 screens, you're going to make the decision, for the sake of narrowing it down to one and just obtaining clarity in life. Although, of course, you can change paths at any time. You can bounce between paths. I'm not trying to convey that this is like a strict narrowing down, but this is the beauty, is like, this is the way of viewing technology as positive, right? Where you see it, you don't allow it to overtake you or control you or pressure you to be a certain way. You just allow it to simply inform you. You assess all of the options laid out in front of you. If it's 100 doors or 100 forks in the road. And then you, with your intuition and your authentic self and your inner essence, tapped in to your inner essence and tapped into your divine source energy that you are rooted from, that is how you make your choice of which path you want to walk on or which door you want to travel through. So all of these external, all this external content is not meant to tell you what to do or lead you down their own path or force you to stay on their path or manipulate you to stay. They're simply just information, and you get to make that choice. So I wanted to offer this analogy because I think it's really powerful, especially for those of the collective who may spend a lot of time on social media and consuming a lot of content. And this, like I said before, this even goes for if you're reading a lot of books. It doesn't have to just be videos or things like that. But if you read a lot of articles or books, or even if you talk to a lot of people, and you may know, especially if you're watching this channel and you resonate, you may identify as an empath or someone who's very sensitive and very influenceable. And so your angels and guides are really reminding you to anchor down in hearing your intuition. How can you hear your intuition more? And that in itself is a practice. And that's something that is a huge key for balanced existence, is being able to balance your intuition with moments of logic as well, in this world of an abundance of options and opportunities and really infinite abundance that is available to you if you simply decide, right? And that really is the first choice of manifestation, is to decide, right? So I hope that this message resonated. Let me know what you think. I'm just really excited to grow this community. And so I would love to hear from you in the comments, and I will see you in the next video. Thanks for listening. Bye.